Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The transfer portal really starting to heat up over the last couple of days, and we've kind of been talking about this, expecting LSU to probably be one of the bigger players in this second portal window opening. Want to talk about some names that are already in the transfer portal that I think would be really good fits for this LSU program, and this is something we've talked a lot about over the last couple of weeks. This LSU team, if they can make some key portal additions in those spots that we have question marks about, the secondary, the defensive line, this is a program that not only is going to be extremely dangerous in the SEC, I think this team is going to be extremely dangerous across the country. Want to get into some names that I think make a lot of sense for this LSU program. Excited to get into this one. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. A massive shout out to the LSU fans talking this program in the transfer portal on the high school recruiting trail. Cannot thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, would love to hear some of your thoughts on these names that we're going to talk about. And if you guys have any other names that I'm leaving out, drop them in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And we're going to get to the defensive line, which is, I've been pretty vocal, probably the biggest question mark we have about this LSU program. But I want to start in the back end of this defense, and a guy that when he hit the portal earlier this afternoon, I thought this is a massive opportunity for LSU to really address a big question mark we have about this program, and that is in the secondary. But we were very specific in terms of what kind of guys we want to add to this LSU secondary. And the first thing we want to see is experience. And you look at a guy in Greedy Vance Jr., played 2 years at Louisville, 2 years at Florida State, has played over 1,300 snaps during his college football career and played really well for this Florida State program last year. 29 targets, only gave up 13 catches, a 44% completion percentage given up. You look at that Florida State roster, it's loaded in the back end of this defense, kind of squeezed a guy like Greedy Vance Jr. out. He is a box checker for this LSU program. I think he has experience. I think he certainly has the talent that you're looking for. And I think it's a massive opportunity to get a kid that was from the state of Louisiana back home at LSU. We talked about this a lot. You look at this LSU secondary room, I think you're really excited about the young talent that you have, right? Javion Toviano, guys like Ashton Stance, a couple true freshmen really making some noise in spring practice as well as early enrollees. We talked about if you're going to add in the back end, you want to get guys that are kind of the opposite of what we did with Denver Harris last year in terms of betting on upside, but not a lot of proven talent or not a lot of proven production. You might say, you look at Greedy Vance Jr. going into his 5th year of college football, having played over 1,300 snaps. He probably doesn't have the upside that some of these younger players do on this LSU roster, but he has the experience. He has the proven production, and I think he largely elevates the floor of what this LSU secondary can be, and he's extremely versatile, right? Played a lot of slot corner at Florida State his last 2 years, but you go back to his time at Louisville, played a lot of boundary cornerback as well, and you want these kind of versatile bodies in this LSU secondary. I think Greedy Vance Jr. hopping in the portal earlier this afternoon would be a great target for this LSU program. Other guy I want to talk about in the back end, and this would be a big fish, and I mean, he's been in the portal for a very long time. There's some rumors that he returns to Arizona. Tario Davis, largely my favorite cornerback that's still available in the transfer portal. When you talk about a guy like Tario Davis, you talk about not only very good performance in 2023, but a guy that has so much upside. I look at his game and say there's still a lot of meat on the bone left in terms of what he can be as a player, but you already know what you're getting with a guy like Tario Davis. You take a look at his numbers from 2023 out in the Pac-12 where you saw very good passing attacks week in, week out, 54 targets, only 23 receptions given up, a 42% completion percentage when targeted. And the number that I absolutely love, especially as it pertains to this LSU defense, 7% missed tackle rate, right? We talked about LSU just not tackling good enough in the secondary last year. Tario Davis, not only extremely good in coverage, but a guy that can get it done tackling as well. 6'4", 195. He does a phenomenal job getting hands on wide receivers, a massive, massive radius, gets his hands in a lot of throwing windows. Greedy Vance Jr., Tario Davis, I think two massive opportunities for LSU to get proven production into that LSU secondary of a position group that we have question marks, but there's a lot of reason to be excited about this unit with Blake Baker, Corey Raymond taking over the reins. Now, the next position we're going to talk about, and kind of a couple different lenses to talk about this one, and that is the defensive line, specifically on the inside, just the numbers game, right? Depth, not good enough. You added a guy in Gio Pius who I think comes in and kind of makes you feel better about the pure numbers that you have. Dominic McKinley will get here in the summer. You're still looking for proven production on the inside of that defensive line. Philip Bley, a guy that is getting a ton of love in the transfer portal. Oklahoma going after him. Washington, LSU was on campus for LSU on Wednesday. I think LSU has a really good shot at a guy like Philip Bley. And as being a Big Ten guy myself, this is a kid that's really interesting. 6'3", 295, carries that 295 extremely well. He's solid against the run, but I think gives you some upside in terms of pass rush on the inside. Is he going to be a game wrecker for LSU? Probably not, but this is another guy that kind of similar to Gio Paz, a guy that you can look at and say he elevates the floor of what this LSU defensive line is going to be. And I think the conversation around Philip Bley and when LSU might take him, they're probably going to play the waiting game a little bit and kind of see, all right, what guys are hitting the transfer portal on the inside of that defensive line. I think you're going to see a couple other names kind of similar to a guy like Bear Alexander hit the portal. Obviously, Bear decides to go back to USC. I wouldn't be surprised if LSU kind of keeps connection with a guy like Philip Bley and says, hey, we're going to see what other options present themselves in the transfer portal over the next couple of weeks. And if we say, well, okay, Philip Bley might be one of the best options, we'll go and grab him. But I look at programs like Michigan, like Georgia, and saying they have such a loaded interior defensive line. You might see a few really good players hit the transfer portal just for some opportunity to get more playing time. And we all know this LSU defense on the inside of that defensive line is an opportunity to get a lot of playing time and play on a team that is going to be competing at the highest level of college football in 2024. Philip Bley, a name to keep an eye on, but we're going to kind of update this board as more interior guys hit the portal over the next couple of weeks. Last name I want to talk about and would love to hear kind of some feedback from the LSU fans. When Damen Martinez hit the portal, we said LSU could be a player in this one. Now, you heard Brian Kelly come out and say, hey, we're going to have to change how we run the football without Jaden Daniels, and it's going to be a lot more running back center carries. And you look at this LSU running back room, and you have Caden Durham coming in the summer, but it's not a very deep running back room. And a guy like Damen Martinez, I think as much as I love some of those LSU running backs, I've been vocal about it, Damen Martinez probably can count on one hand how many running backs I like more than Damen Martinez heading into 2024. You talk about how good this offensive line is going to be. For a guy like Damen Martinez leaving Oregon State, he's probably a one-and-done guy, right? Going to play one more year of college football, go to the NFL. He's looking for an offense that is going to give him the ability to kind of showcase his talent. I look at LSU and say, you got one of, if not the best offensive line in the country. Damen Martinez, you're going to be a workhorse for this LSU offense. I think he would really help this LSU rushing attack kind of continue their dominance without a guy like Jaden Daniels. Again, he's from the state of Texas. I would not be surprised to see LSU be a player in Damen Martinez. You look at this LSU roster, there are not a ton of holes in it. But if you can address the inside of this defensive line, maybe grab some experience in the back end of this defense, I look at this LSU team and say, this is going to be one of the more dangerous teams in college football. Really excited to see where LSU decides to go. We'll keep you guys as updated as possible as the transfer portal plays out. Again, appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.